Good evening. I call to order this regular joint meeting of the Minnehaha County and Sioux Falls Planning Commissions. And I will begin with a few introductory comments. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones have been silenced. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.gov site for viewing by the general public. The two planning commissions work together on land use and zoning matters within the rural areas surrounding the city. This area is displayed on the screen. When this joint hearing is completed, the joint Sioux Falls and County Planning Commission will adjourn and the next regular business meeting will begin to consider items beyond the joint zoning jurisdiction with Sioux Falls. Any action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, March 31st, 2025 at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the Joint County Commission and City Council for a hearing on Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025 at or after 5 p.m. The affected parties will be notified of the meeting date. Joint meetings of the County Commission and Sioux Falls City Council are held at Carnegie Town Hall, and that is located at 235 West 10th Street. Action taken on the zoning text amendments during the public hearing tonight is a recommendation that will be forwarded to the County Commission and City Council for another public hearing on Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025 at or after 5 p.m. Joint meetings of the County Commission and City Council are held in Carnegie Town Hall at 235 West 10th Street. First on our agenda is public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. Next, I'll read each item on the consent agenda and ask if there are any issues or comments from the Planning Commission or the audience. If any member of the Planning Commission or the audience would like to be heard on the item, please raise your hand and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Any items remaining on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. Item number 1 on the consent agenda is approval of the minutes of the February 24th, 2025 meeting. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 25-15 to transfer 4 building eligibilities from the north half, the northeast quarter, section 26, to the southwest quarter, the northwest quarter, section 25, all within Township 102 North, Range 49 West, that is in Mapleton Township. The petitioner is 19 Flags LLC. They're also the property owner. It's located between Slip Up Creek Road and Interstate 90, approximately 1 mile north of Sioux Falls. Is there anyone from the Planning Commission, staff, or audience wish to be heard on this item? Commissioners?
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
On the city side, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Any further discussion on the city side? All those in favor signify by yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries on the city side.
Thank you. We'll move on to the regular agenda. Item number 3, zoning text amendment 25-04 to amend the 2002 revised joint zoning ordinance for Minnehaha County and the City of Sioux Falls to add accessory dwelling unit, ADU regulations. Kevin?
Good evening. I'm Kevin Hookman from the County Planning Department. I'll just begin by noting that throughout 2024, staff reviewed and updated the Envision 2035 comprehensive plan for the county, Minnehaha County. And now that has been adopted and as amended as the Envision 2045 comprehensive plan. Through that time, we did work with the public. We worked with the Planning Commission. We also had a designated task force to explore residential land uses in the rural area. We termed as the density task force. In the updated Envision 2045 comprehensive plan, there is the following goal. Goal number 4.11, ensure maximum efficiency in the provision of the public services and facilities to promote cohesive and attractive development in the rural area. And then it has this action 3, develop, adopt, and implement an ordinance amendment to allow accessory dwelling units within the county. So I'll kind of work through some of the accessory dwelling units portion of the amendment that is proposed today. So accessory dwelling units, some of the advantages for accessory dwelling units in the county include that we can work with the existing building eligibilities within the county. We don't have to add new, we just as accessory to what's already there. ADUs are adaptable for the person who is using them. They can be used for family who need extra help, say elderly people or even the young person who's just starting out. It also is something that can be used for additional rental income. That unit that can be used to rent out to a friend or even a relative for some side income for the primary owner. Accessory dwelling units are also compatible generally with single-family residential already, and many ADUs already exist in the county in various forms. This would be in forms that were built prior to density zoning that still exist. There's also illegally constructed ones that would be worked through the system or can work through the ordinance now, become part of the regular zoning and throughout the county. So this is the definition that's being proposed for accessory dwelling unit. A subordinate residential dwelling unit on the same parcel with larger primary single-family dwelling. The ADU provides complete independent living facilities for one family. It may take various forms: a detached unit, a unit that is part of an accessory structure such as a detached garage, or a unit that is part of an expanded or remodeled dwelling. So this kind of gives you an idea of some options that an accessory dwelling unit might take. So a detached or an attached unit. You can also remodel portions of the property, say an attic or a basement. You can add above a garage or even convert the garage into a living space is kind of the options that the AARP present. Accessory dwelling units have different names, and there's some of the different names of how they are used throughout kind of common vernacular. Going forward with accessory dwelling unit, we are proposing that this requires a conditional use permit with the listed requirements throughout the required. If the requirements are not met, that means then the conditional use permit cannot be approved. So then the requirements become a firm standing part of the construction of an accessory dwelling unit. So some of the general requirements for all accessory dwelling units, whether it's detached or attached, is that they have to be on one platted lot, and it's specifically platted, and that is a means for review to make sure that a property does not get further subdivided and remove that accessory dwelling unit into a single property. We want to make sure that accessory dwelling units remain accessory to the primary dwelling. That the accessory dwelling unit is on a permanent frost footing, so that way it's a permanent unit. It's not something that's on wheels like a camper would be. This would be something that stays on the property. That we need to make sure there is wastewater capacity for the new unit, whether that be proof the existing wastewater can handle it, or another wastewater septic system can be installed on the property to accommodate it. We are requesting that no additional driveways be added to the property, so that way the existing driveway is used, or if there's multiple driveways, that those would be used currently in their current form. Parking for the rural area, 2 additional parking spaces is probably not a big ask. A lot of our lots are fairly large, generally speaking, an acre or more. So parking, asking 2 additional parking spaces is not a big ask for an ADU. And that it must meet floodplain development requirements if it's in the floodplain and not allowed at all within the floodway. For attached ADUs, the requirement would be 75% of the main floor area. Part of the reasoning behind the 75% would make it easier to allow a basement conversion. So that way the main floor may be, say, 1,000 square feet. That basement minus the utility space would be able to make that 75% without having to do additional kind of subtraction out of that basement. The attached must meet the same setbacks as the primary dwelling and also must meet the current building code. For detached, a little smaller main floor area to maintain that accessory look to it. So that'd be a 50% main floor area. With one exception, in the rural area, there are a lot of farmhouses. And if that farmhouse is to be maintained, this exception was created to kind of allow that farmhouse to be part of that accessory growth. So anything that is older or been permitted 30 years ago would be able to be utilized as the accessory dwelling at 100% of the rate of the new house. Setbacks for ADUs that are detached, if it's in the rear yard, the ADU must meet a 7-foot setback from any of the rear or side yards. In the front is going to be the same as the primary dwelling. And again, the ADU must meet building code. We also have a provision that it can meet HUD code, which is for a manufactured dwelling. So that would be another way to do an ADU. So there's a picture of the setbacks. And I guess that's basically the ordinance in a nutshell. And with that, I will say staff is recommending approval of the ordinance amendment. This has been reviewed by our state's attorney, has been reviewed by the city, and the city comments were attached with this. So I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for him? White City?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have several questions for you, Kevin. One of them was on page 3, number 4. In your notes, you said it could be changed to require the information before a permit, a building permit, which we were talking about, the wastewater. And I'm just wondering, which direction is it right now? So they have to have that information before the CUP, so we wouldn't really want to change it before the building permit was, so that is a kind of a moot point.
So yes, the way it's currently worded is that we would have to have that information before the conditional use permit. So typically, to know that there's water capacity, wastewater capacity, the individual would either have to have a sanitary sewer like letter that they can hook on, or a perk test that shows that there's space and that the soil has capacity for a septic system.
Okay, and so then along with that, does it state in here, and I read it, but I don't remember, does it state in here that there can be a second septic tank on that property? And does it need to state that if that's necessary, there can be a second one?
Well, it would be have to meet the septic requirements for the county. which would include setbacks and various other requirements from property lines and from structures and from the next septic system. So if there's not enough space, then it would not be allowed.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, does there need to be a line in there that says that the possibility of a second one is permissible? That's my question.
I guess since that part is already governed by another ordinance, so number 8 says the ADU must comply with all other county ordinances. That septic system would probably be able to cover underneath that because it would already be under the county wastewater ordinance.
Okay. More questions? Okay,
So Commissioner Heiberger, just to clarify, it is already allowed, you are already allowed to have a second septic system on your property. If
Okay.
you can meet the requirements, you can have
a second
a
one.
second one.
Okay. My next question was on driveway accessibility or driveway, adding additional driveways. So my concern is by calling it a driveway, that somebody may in the future say, oh, you can't, once you're on the property, you can't have a driveway over to this second house. And I would like to consider changing it to accessible road or accessible driveway, whatever, off of the main highway, township, or county road, because I'm concerned about going down the road and then, later on we say you have to have 2 parking spots. But I don't want somebody to misinterpret that and say, you can't have a driveway on your yard and you have to, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Sure. So you'd rather see it worded as access.
Accessible access from a highway, township road or county
access.
road or whatever. Accessible access, I think, is a better termination than saying a driveway, because a driveway can be in your yard, especially in a farm yard. You could have several. So I would recommend that. And the other one, I had a little question on the setbacks. Are 7 feet from the rear of the side of the house, and the front yard, same as the house. What did that mean? Because that will have something to do with my next question.
Okay, so the front yard, if the accessory dwelling unit's in the front yard, it needs to meet that 30-foot setback if it's on a secondary road, or a 50-foot setback if it's on a primary road, like a section line road. And then also the side yard for the front is 7 feet, so that would be the same, so.
Okay. So then my last question, this does actually fit, if I can find it. Just a second. Where's that? It's on the letter from the city of Sioux Falls, the urban planner, and she just had a couple of comments on there, and so I wanted to bring them up. And one of hers on there was that the unit is only allowed in the rear yard. And I'm speaking to the city of Sioux Falls, I guess. I hope that you will consider not putting that in there, and my reason being, okay, I'm a rural resident. I live 300, my house is 300 feet off of the highway. So I easily could put another house in the front yard and still be a long ways off the highway. And if you look at some of the other farm places out there, and I don't know what their platting is on their farms, but some people have a 1/4 mile long driveway, and you'd have plenty of room to put a house in your front yard and still make it, still make it okay. So I don't think that's in the ordinance currently, but I would prefer to see you not put that in there. That is going to inhibit people who are still in the rural county that have huge yards, and they might have room for that house in the front. And especially if it's an older farm home and you have room for a new home in front of it that looks better than this old farm home. So that would be my comment to the city.
I can clarify that on the letter. The ordinances are just listed for reference. They're not what's proposed here. What's proposed here is the text amendments.
I don't want them to change it. So that's why I'm bringing it up. And the other one, the unit must not be more than 40% of the square footage of the principal building, not including the garage. But that's just a recommendation different than what we're recommending from the county planning and zoning. And so I would like to see that you do not drop the size of it for exactly the same reason, is that, especially if you have an old farm home. My home's over 30 years old, so I could build a big house in my front yard. Not that I'm planning on it. So I think that those are all my comments. I have to look at my notes quick. Yes. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Or any comments?
Go ahead.
Kevin, can you just give me your thoughts on one of the I don't know if it was a recommendation or just a consideration from city staff about if all the, I forget the general requirements are met, passing or foregoing the conditional use process and allowing it as a permitted special. Is there a reason that you would want it as a conditional use versus a permitted special?
Sure. So a couple of reasons with that is that this is kind of the first step is the county allowing kind of a higher density in the county. It's kind of as a first step, this is a way to allow the use, but still have kind of this public forum. Notice will be given to neighbors. It is also a way that to make sure these general requirements are met. Because as a permitted special use, it would be something where if these requirements are met, you can build on the property. If they are not met, then you go to a conditional use permit. For example, our accessory building sizes are currently that way, that if you have a 1 to 3 acre property, you can have 2,400 square feet of accessory building. We oftentimes get requests for larger than that, and it's very rare that we deny. So this would be a way to, if somebody wanted to say that 50% or go over 50%, that is a pretty hard cap now that it's a conditional use permit. And as a permitted special use, it would be kind of a, well, this is where you can do it just permit, and then you can request for more would be the question.
Commissioner Gray, the Scott Anderson Planning Director, and I also just want to comment that I think it's really important that we handle this as a conditional use permit because it will allow us to be able to review, it will require the applicant to provide us that septic information, and I think that's really vital. It's a little bit different in the city where you can hook up to the city sewer, but when we're dealing with a septic system, we need to make sure that it really is going to adequately function. And so I think that's really an important step for us to have answered up front and not just allow someone to say, yeah, I checked it and it's all good. So I think there's a lot of technical data there that we need to review, make sure.
Very good, thank you. And then any thoughts on, or can you maybe help me understand the 75% versus 50% for the attached? And what the example you gave with the basement was helpful, so maybe just walk me through that again.
Yeah, so with the part of the accessory dwelling units is that it maintains a single family character. So as far as the general 50% main floor area is that to make sure that building remain accessory to the house. Once you get larger than that, you are really looking at 2 primary dwellings or duplexes. The 75%, like I said, it was mostly based on the basement conversion example. If we wanted to keep them the same, like at 50% on both, or 75% on both, whichever one works best, that could be done as an amendment to this.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for him? Comments? Cindy?
Sorry, Kevin, if, on my one on the driveways and accessibility, does that have to be a motion in order to change it? Okay.
I have something written up for you.
Oh, thank you.
So I think that if you're going to want to consider that, maybe we could, that would be item number 5, maybe could read, no additional access from a township, county, or state highway may be constructed for separate use of the ADU.
That would be my motion.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes on the county side. Correct. I thought that they could do it, and then we'd go through the next step, okay? Go ahead.
All right, on the seaside.
Move to amend to match how the county did it.
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes on the seaside.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, we also need to make sure you ask for any public comment because it's a public hearing. I wasn't sure you did or not, so.
No, I did not. I did not.
So before we wrap it up, let's make sure we ask if there's any public comment.
Okay. Why don't I do that right now? Is there anybody in the audience that cares to comment on this item? Please state your name and address.
Tyler Childress, Minnehaha County resident. Couple questions on the property tax. I think that's just important as we keep seeing the property tax increase, how that would work in this scenario. You know, I own a trailer park, and it's interesting how that works from a building / manufactured house versus a land parcel. So will there be one property tax with multiple units on that, or will that be separated? Kind of a question I had from the realistic standpoint here. Just kind of curious how that would work.
Kevin, do you want to comment on that, please?
I can venture a guess for you.
Go ahead.
So I don't want to, I'm not the Director of Equalization, and ultimately this is going to be an item that the Director of Equalization will handle. I don't see that it would be much out of the realm of a difference of how they might value several parcels that are on, or several structures that are on one parcel. They're going to give them all a value, and they'll move forward. So the way this is written, it has to be under one ownership. So it's that property, that the property owner will receive an assessment of the evaluation, and they'll pay according to the evaluation that is assigned to them by the Director of Equalization. And certainly if the property owner does not feel that that is adequately represented, they have the right to appeal. So there is certainly checks and balances provided, but I don't see it as being much of a hurdle for the Director of Equalization to just add up all of the value and put it on the tax notice.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience care to address this item? Okay, commissioners?
I'd make a motion to pass the, what do you call them? The new zoning text with the amendment.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
On the city side, I'll look for a motion to approve the amended.
Move to approve the zoning tax as amended.
Second.
All those in favor signify by yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes on the city side.
Thank you. Move on to item number 4, zoning text amendment 25-05 to amend the 2002 revised joint zoning ordinance for Minnehaha County and the city of Sioux Falls to change the transfer of building eligibility regulations. Kevin?
All right, Kevin Hookman from the County Planning Department. Again, starting off with the Envision 2045 comprehensive plan with the update on that. The goal that's set forward in the plan was goal 5.6 to maintain and strengthen low-density residential standards in the agricultural district. Action 4 was to revise the ordinance restrictions for building eligibility transfers to allow transfer between properties with different owners when it is appropriate to do so. So this text amendment would allow a change in the transfers of building eligibilities, and to kind of cover the transfer a little bit. Currently, building eligibilities can be transferred from one property to another if the two properties are contiguous and under the same ownership. And this is kind of a display of what the intent of transferring ownership is, to kind of prevent the low density development of the rural area and try to work it all together in a smaller, denser format. Just for some references here, the county building eligibility counts, I looked this up today. We have 5,599 building eligibilities available, with several other under a conditional use permit in the floodplains. So over 8,638 building eligibilities total that could be developed throughout the county. So then the ones that are not available or locked, that are being used by houses, is about 6,198 of them. So a total of nearly 15,000 eligibilities in the county. This is a little bit older because it took a little more effort to calculate these out, but it should be pretty close anyway. That in the joint jurisdictional area where this joint body works, the available eligibilities is about 731 building eligibilities that are available to be constructed, with a total locked building eligibilities of 1,611 locked eligibilities. So that's kind of what we're looking at through the development possibilities. With this proposed transfer of development change, this would allow the transfer of building eligibility between contiguous properties, but it removes the same ownership requirement, so that the now two different property owners could work together and negotiate a transfer, so that they'd be able to transfer over the property. The changing of the rule will allow more potential use of these building eligibilities, where sometimes that property owner may be less likely to want to go through all the legal steps to change the property owner's name to allow that building eligibility to transfer. The new rule will still have this be a conditional use permit to transfer a building eligibility, so it'll still have to go in front of you as a joint board. Both property owners will have to sign off on the application, so it's not just a one property owner application with this requirement. So yes, and that really is the primary part of the transfer, is that we're removing that same ownership requirement, and this will take place both in the agricultural zoning district and the RC recreational conservation zoning district in the county. So I guess, is there any questions about that?
Any questions for him?
Madam Chair, Kevin, real quick, show my ignorance here on housing eligibilities. Can these be sold?
Okay. So yeah, this would have a little bit more of a marketability to sell an eligibility now, because as a land right or a right to build on a property, it would allow that one single family house where available building eligibility is. And this would allow contiguous property owners to sell one eligibility to the next property.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Madam
Bill?
Chair, I'll note that this kind of cleans up some issues for our Register of Deeds office, because there are some workarounds to play some games with contiguous owners, where I'll sell you this tiny piece of my land, move the eligibility over there under I'm the same owner now, and then I'll sell it right back to you. And I think that just makes a lot of clutter in our Register of Deeds office. And so I don't think this is a revolutionary change, because there were some ways to do some of this anyway under the status quo, but it just kind of acknowledges what we're all trying to accomplish here and just make that contiguous transfer. But anything you'd add from your experience of some of those situations, Kevin?
But yeah, you're right. This is something that is already happening throughout the county. The building eligibility transfer that was approved earlier is really the pre-step of that intent. And I think it would have went further if this was already established as part of the ordinance. So that way there wouldn't be a multi-step process. It would be a one through building eligibility transfer.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for him?
I had a question, Kevin. Is there a maximum amount, or would be the maximum amount they could transfer to the adjacent parcel, if they all were still available? And do we get into anything where they'd have to do like rural subdivisions?
Sure. So there really isn't a maximum amount, as long as there is a building eligibility is available. There was a building eligibility transfer that was under the same ownership in the rural area outside of the joint jurisdiction that had moved 12 building eligibilities in one space, and that was last year. When that happens, if there's more than, I think it's 4 lots that are created as a result of that transfer, a a subdivision ordinance does require that you have to have a preliminary subdivision plan then at that point. So if you move one, you can plat the lot through the regular platting process. And when you get that more than 4, that's when that subdivision plan becomes a requirement.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone from the audience wish to address this item? Okay, commissioners?
Yes, Madam Chair, as Joe said, this really is just kind of a cleanup of formality. It's fixing a cure that's already happening, so to speak. And with that said, I guess I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
On the state side, I'll look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes on the city side.
Any old business? Any new business?
No.
Any motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
So I'll look for a motion to adjourn on the city side.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.